right, what's going on, everybody? This is End Time Headlines, news and headlines from a prophetic perspective. And today is Friday, June 27th. Now, what are we going to talk about tonight? Well, I was going to talk about the 10 kings of Bible prophecy. And we got new information coming out about the Abrahamic Accords. This is exciting stuff, but I'm going to put that off until next week because I'm still gathering information. I want to get all the research together for that before I just don't want to sling that out there and get everything together that I want to talk about because I really want to hit some key points on that message. So that's one that we've got on deck coming up. Today, we're going to be going out and talking about Luke 17. This is basically going to be our foundation of what we're going to talk about tonight, because I got 3 stories for you that once again is highlighting the fact that humanity, howbeit scientists, innovators, these quote-unquote experts, are all crossing this threshold on where they're wanting to take civilization, where they want to take humanity. They're behind closed doors, in laboratories, in dark rooms. They're experimenting. They're splicing DNA. They're creating DNA. They're doing weird stuff out there. And we're gonna highlight 3 stories today. So you're gonna need your Bible. We're gonna come back in just a moment, but go ahead and open up to the book of Luke, chapter 17. You guys listen by Apple and by Spotify. That's Luke 17. We're going to read a passage out of there that's going to kind of springboard us into our discussion today. So without further ado, guys, let's get after it.
The following program is brought to you by friends and partners of End Time Headlines.
All right, what's going on, family, friends, listeners, viewers alike? We want to welcome you to the program. Again, this is End Time Headlines, and I'm your host, pastor, founder, and voice of End Time Headlines, Ricky Scaparo. Hope everybody's had a great week this week. It's been hot here in my neck of the woods in the state of Georgia. It's a little bit above average for this time of year. It feels like we're in the middle of July or August at this point, but now it's starting to wean down a little bit and it's starting to cool off just a tad. I mean, it's still hot, but it feels cooler when the heat index is 105, 106, 107 or higher. We've had an interesting week. We came back on Monday night from our trip to Virginia. Yesterday was crazy. And I don't really want to, I wasn't going to get into this, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about this. But my family and I went out to lunch yesterday, and in our neighborhood we have a neighborhood text kind of where we communicate with each other and as a community. And this is kind of like a neighborhood watch thing for our kids and safety and whatnot. And this thing started blowing up, and when I was looking at it, everybody was freaking out and said, "Did you hear this? Did you feel this?" And our whole neighborhood shook like it was an earthquake. People thought there was an explosion. People thought there was an earthquake. And then I started getting reports from people 45 minutes outside of us, outside of where we live. Then I heard people from North Carolina, South Carolina. And turns out it was a meteor or a quote unquote fireball that just randomly came out of heaven and exploded over the atmosphere. Now, they don't even know if it exploded over the atmosphere or if it actually struck the ground. There's officials now, they're telling us they're going out and looking for this thing out in the field and debris. They're looking for debris. There was one home in a county in Georgia, here in the Atlanta Metroplex, where a part of the meteor actually broke off and went through this guy's roof, went in and stuck into his floor. Crazy. You got to keep your head on a swivel, because remember, the Lord said there will be great and fearful sights from heaven when we get into the last days. So I think this is a great example because I don't know if you saw the video of this massive fireball coming out, but it's all over the news. And people, again, across many states of the South saw this thing, and there's video of it. And it was pretty extraordinary. So I thought of that, and we talked about that. But anyway, before we get started, guys, on what we're going to talk about tonight, again, I told you to open up to Luke 17. We're going to pull that up, and we're going to give you a foundational scripture on where we're going with this. Go ahead and hit that like button if you would. That's going to help us get the eyes on the program here on YouTube and whatever else you may be watching this video from. And you guys listening by Apple or Spotify, if you'll give us a good review, that would be a blessing to us as well. And listen, if you're new, first time joining us, in the chat, whatever the case may be, or you're watching the rebroadcast of this in the comment, let us know that you're new and where you guys are tuning in from. And we want to acknowledge you. We have our admins here that will do that, and I myself, and we want to just thank you for being a part of the program. And we hope that you enjoy it and that you'll come back and be a regular viewer. Listen, if you don't have our app, we also want to encourage you to download it today. This is how you can keep up with all of our content, breaking news, prophecy updates, headlines, everything at your fingertips. Just simply go to your Play Store, Apple, Android, whatever that looks like for you. Download it today, hit yes to push notifications, and you'll be squared away. So Luke 17, let's go ahead and turn there. Very familiar passage for most of our folks that keep up with Bible prophecy. People that keep up with our ministry, you know that we have touched on this regularly in these stories. But let me read this nevertheless. When the Christ was giving this discourse on the times of the end, the coming of the Lord, signs of the last days, he tells them that there will be false apostles, false messiahs that will appear. In fact, he says in Luke 17:23, when they say, and they're going to say it, and they will say to you, look here or look there, do not go after them or follow them. For as lightning that flashes out of one part of under heaven shines to the other part of heaven, so also the Son of Man will be in his day. But first, he must suffer many things and be rejected by this generation. Then there's a period there. So then he proceeds to go into a whole different discourse here. Now listen what he says in verse 26. And as it was in the days of Noah, and we've highlighted that for you, so will it also be in the days of the Son of Man. Again, eating, drinking, marrying, giving in marriage until the day that Noah entered the ark. The flood came, destroyed them all. Likewise, it was also as it was in the days of Lot. They ate, drank, bought, sold, planted, and built. But on the day that Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from heaven and destroyed them all. Even so will it be in the day when the Son of Man is revealed. Now, folks, listen, again, for everyone who understands prophecy, we understand according to Solomon, who wrote into the book of, and this guy was the wisest of all men on the planet. God said, whatever you ask and whatever you desire, I'll give it to him. He didn't ask for riches. He didn't ask for fame. He didn't ask for fortune. He asked for wisdom. And God granted him wisdom. And in the book of Ecclesiastes, Solomon gives us a powerful, what I call a prophetic nugget or a prophetic piece to unraveling and solving future prophetic events. It's basically a key to help us unlock and understand events that will transpire in the future and how they correlate to Bible prophecy. He tells us in the book of Ecclesiastes, that which was is that which shall be. There is no new thing under the sun. Can anyone say that this is new, that has not already happened in ancient times? Therefore, listen to me, all of society, all of culture, it's a continual circle. It comes back full circle. We've talked about this many times. Look at fads, look at fashion, look at culture, look at all these things as far as dress, haircuts, hairstyles, movies, media, everything. It goes full circle. Now, there are so many angles that we can take this. We can, for example, in this context of this in Luke 17, Jesus describes basically that life as we know it will go on as normal. It will go on as normal. There will be eating, drinking, giving in marriage. People will be planting and sowing and building and reaping. They'll be doing all this stuff. It will be an everyday. It'll be like an everyday, life. It'll be just like a work week. It'll be no different. There's this false perception that the Lord is going to come back when everything has collapsed. The economy's collapsed. There's complete moral. Everything has just gone to the dumpster. Everything, like there's just gross darkness. There's wickedness. There's evil. And then once where humanity is at the very brink of destruction, then the Lord comes back. But that's not what the scripture says, friend. In Luke 17, Jesus tells us that life will be as normal and as they were in the days of Noah and as they were in the days of Lot. They knew not until the day. And he says, even so will it be in the day when the Son of Man is revealed. But again, you have to dig deeper in this. And when you understand these books of Jewish history, again, we've referenced these so many times, the book of Jasher, the book of Enoch. They give you a deeper understanding of what was going on in those days. And for example, in the days of Noah, the men of the earth in those days were committing what God called an abomination. And it wasn't just sexual immorality. It's deeper than that. They were trying to play God. They were trying to create hybrids. They were trying to take the DNA of one species and mingle it with another. They were trying to take one animal and they were trying to mingle it with another animal and create a whole different species of animal. For goodness sake, in Genesis chapter 6, we have the angels that held not their first estate. These apostate angels went down. They went into the daughters of men and they produced a lineage of giants, these demigods. All this God called an abomination. So that's your foundation. Now, this stuff is going to repeat itself again in some way, some form, or fashion. And for the watchman on the wall like myself, all we're doing is we're giving you information to highlight to you. Look, pay attention. This is happening again in our lifetime. Let me show you an example of what we're talking about here. All right, look at this headline. The real Frankensteins Lab. Scientists want to grow spare human bodies and claim they could, quote, revolutionize medicine. Now look at this. In the name of revolutionizing medicine, they want to grow spare human bodies. What? All right, this is from the Daily Mail. Frankenstein's Lab for growing spare human bodies sounds like something ripped straight out of an episode of Black Mirror, but scientists really want to make this gruesome concept a, quote, reality. In an article published in the MIT Technology Review, 3 Stanford University scientists argue that so-called bodyoids could revolutionize medicine. Notice it's in the name of revolutionizing medicine, just like we talked about last night. If you didn't watch last night's podcast, you need to go back and listen to that, where RFK Jr. wants to put a tracking device in the name of health, in the name of making America healthy again. He wants a tracking device on every American in the next 4 years. So here, in order to, in the name of revolutionizing medicine, they want to create these so-called bodyoids, which would be physiologically, identical to a normal human, but engineered not to have consciousness or experience pain. Let me say that again. Wow. These bodyoids that they want to create, right, would be physiologically identical to a normal human. But the caveat is they will be engineered not to have a conscience or experience pain. They will be soulless. They will not have a soul in them. All right, keep all this in mind because we've got more stories for you today. All right, the researchers argue that modern medical science is being held back by a severe shortage of ethically sourced human bodies. Bodies are needed not only to test the medical interventions of the future, but also to provide organs for life-saving transplants. This is the selling point. We talk about this over and over again. These researchers argue that artificially grown bodies could provide an almost unlimited source of organs, tissues, and cells for use in transplantation. While they acknowledge this technology raises serious moral issues, you think? This technology raises serious moral issues. The scientists claim it should be possible without crossing most people's ethical lines. Wonderful. All right, let's go on here. From cadavers for training medical students to cell samples and organs for medical trials, it is unavoidably morbid fact that medical science needs bodies. However, scientists and professors now say they are facing dire shortages of human biological materials, which are costing lives and holding back advancement. In the U.S. alone, there are more than 100,000 patients on the waiting list for an organ transplant. Many of those will die before an organ becomes available. There are currently more than 8,000 people waiting for an organ in the UK. However, 400 of them will die waiting in the year 20. They have already died in 23 through 24. Without a good supply of human bodies, medical trials are conducted on non-human animals. But this is not a good solution. The researchers argue that this can't replicate major aspects of human physiology and makes it necessary to inflict harm on sentient creatures. However, new advancement in technology have now presented a bold solution, making bodies from scratch from a special type of cells. This would give researchers and doctors a nearly endless supply of fresh human organs without needing to wait for human donors to die. Although it might sound like science fiction, the article says the technologies required are already under rapid development. Scientists have recently found new ways of encouraging stem cells, a special type of cell that forms very early in our development, to transform into other tissues. Now, let me give you another story here. And that brings us right into this one. Look at this. This just came out today. We put this out on our website this morning. Controversy erupts as scientists start work to, quote, create artificial human DNA. All right, scientists have begun work on a controversial project that aims to create human DNA from scratch. The world's largest medical charity, the Wellcome Trust, has donated Rs-117 crore 10 million pounds to start the project, which involves scientists from universities including Oxford, Cambridge, and Imperial College. Regarded as the building blocks of human life, DNA is made up of repeating units called nucleotides, which contain all the genetic information that physically makes us who we are. Scientists involved in the Synthetic Human Genome Project, the Synthetic Human Genome Project, are now attempting to, quote, create a fully synthetic human chromosome making up about 2% of human DNA as proof of concept. The ultimate aim is to maybe one day create all of it from scratch. Ladies and gentlemen, they want to create a synthetic human that has no soul. Let that soak in. The sky is the limit, they said. We are looking at therapies that will improve people's lives as they age. This will lead to healthier aging with less disease as they get older. Now, friends, listen to me. I'm going to tell you something. This current administration would be on board with that. RFK Jr. would be on board with that. You don't think Sam Altman and Larry Ellison and even Trump would be on board for that? They would be 100% on board for this. Because again, their goal, their vision with Stargate is to revolutionize the entire health industry. I'm going to read a little bit more of this. We are looking to use this approach to generate disease-resistant cells we can use to repopulate damaged organs. For example, in the liver and the heart, even the immune system. As per Professor Matthew Hurls, director of the Wellcome Sanger Institute, studying how genes and DNA regulate our bodies could help us pinpoint when they go wrong and ultimately develop better treatments. Quote, building DNA from scratch allows us to test out how DNA really works and test out new theories, because currently we can only really do that by tweaking DNA and DNA that already exists in living systems. Did you catch that? So they want to find out how to create DNA, and currently they have been tweaking DNA in already existing living systems. Again, as it were in the days of Noah, so shall it be at the return of the Son of Man. They're doing this again. It's repeating itself. Now I'm going to pull this up so you can read this with me. However, not everyone is seemingly convinced by the idea of humans playing gods. Professor Bill Earnshaw, a genetic scientist at Edinburgh University who designed a method for creating artificial chromosomes, said the technology could be commercialized quickly by healthcare companies. Look at that. The technology could be commercialized quickly by healthcare companies. The genie is out of the bottle. We could have a set of restrictions now, but if an organization who has access to appropriate machinery decided to start synthesizing anything, I don't think we could stop them. Ladies and gentlemen, wow. And again, we just talked about last night that under this, buried in this entire big, beautiful bill is the fact that there is not going to be any restrictions and regulations on artificial intelligence for the next 10 years. So I wonder, I'm not saying it is in there, but I wonder if there's anything in there about healthcare, procedures, testing, these experiments. Is there going to be regulation on that? Or is it just, we just give them free for all? They can do whatever they want, like China. They can go in backdoor rooms. They can go in laboratories and they can just create things. They can experiment with things. They can manipulate things. We're no different. Don't think that it's all China, China, China. No, this is humanity doing this, trying to play God. And this guy's saying the genie's out of the bottle. And he's saying, I don't think we're going to be able to stop this. Once Pandora's box is open, there's no stopping this. All right, let's read on. Dr. Pat Thomas, the director of the campaign group Beyond GM, said, even though scientists are there to work for the good of humans, the project may cause harm. Well, yeah, because we were not meant to do this kind of stuff. We're crossing this threshold. Quote, we like to think that all scientists are there to do good, but the science can be repurposed to do harm and for warfare. What? It can be repurposed to do harm and warfare. Now, let's think about some scenarios in which this technology, these experiments by these scientists, can use create these synthetic humans for a nefarious purpose. You could create a population of these synthetic humans walking among us that have no soul. You could create a race of soldiers. You could create an army of soldiers and put them on the battlefield. They have no soul. Who cares if they lose their life? I mean, there's so many ways and angles that you could go with this. And then you think about Revelation 13, the image of the beast. Did you know that the false prophet will be given power by Satan himself to breathe life into the image that it will both speak and live? Now, we've said artificial intelligence will play a role in this, but look at this. Look at this. Will this somehow be incorporated in that? Could this be a part of that? Reacting to the news, a section of social media users said the experiments could, quote, go wrong. while others expressed optimism that it could lead to a better quality of life for people. Corporate grown employees coming soon. What a wonderful world we live in, said one user, while another added, can't see this going wrong in a sci-fi horror type way at all. He was being sarcastic here. A third one commented, this is cool. I hated growing up with eczema and it would have improved my life so much to not have that issue. So again, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, ladies and gentlemen, in the comments, in the chat. What do you think about this? Now we got one more story. And I want to show you this again. So we have the days of Noah, and now I want to show you this one. This is straight out of the days of Lot. I want to show you this because we already know the intent of why they're doing this. First mouse with two biological fathers has its own babies in a breakthrough that could pave the way for gay men to have children. Let me say that again. The first mouse with two biological fathers has had its own babies in what they're calling a breakthrough. This could pave the way. We knew this was coming for gay men to have children. In other words, translation, there's celebration among some because they're looking for a way to bypass God's intended order of procreation and reproduction. Be fruitful and multiply on the earth, when he spoke to Adam, who was a man, and Eve, who was a woman, and said, procreate and reproduce and multiply and fill the earth. So again, because we live in the times of Noah and Lot, in the days of Lot, Genesis 19, the cities of the plains were filled with raging men who abandoned the natural order of what God gave them, and they burned, I'm quoting Romans chapter 1, they burned in their lust one for another and doing that which was an abomination. So is it any surprise that these people want scientists to create a method, a way to bypass what God intended? Think about that and the ramifications of that. We want to get the woman out of the way. We want to get the man out of the way. We want to get the seed. We don't want the seed in the egg to produce what God called multiplication and what God called reproduction. We want to remove the egg and we'll remove the sperm because that's what caused it. We want to bypass that. We want to be our own God. And because of the lust that we have, burning one for another and defying God's natural order that he established in the earth. And for humankind, they're looking and they're trying to find scientists and find methodologies that they could carry out their evil desires. Now let's look at this. Let me pull this article up here. For the first time, mice born to two fathers have grown up and produced offspring, scientists in China have revealed. What a shock that is that it would be done in China. The researchers at Shanghai Jiaotong University managed to insert two sperm cells, one from each father, into a mouse egg whose nucleus had been removed. A gene editing technique, listen to that, was then used to, quote, reprogram parts of the sperm DNA to allow an embryo to develop a process called androgenesis. The embryo, featuring the genetic material from two fathers, was transferred to a female womb and allowed to grow a term. Finally, the resulting offspring male managed to grow to adulthood and become a parent after mating conventionally with the female. Oh, well, look at that. Mating conventionally with a female. In their lab experiments, the researchers managed to successfully demonstrate the method twice, birthing two fertile male mice, both with two fathers. The promising breakthrough could pave the way, here it is, for two gay men to have a child of their own who can also go on to have a family. Again, was never the intent and the order of God. Never. It was never intended. However, experts have cautioned that there is still a way to go before any such procedures are attempted in humans. Oh, but they're going to do it. If you cannot tell me that if this is successful in mice, and it keeps becoming successful, and they get this aced, that they will not move to humans next. They absolutely will. Now look at this. Experts caution that we are not ready to start such experiments in humans, which could be deeply unethical. This is what blows my mind, guys. What is going on? Like you want to talk about searing your conscience with a hot iron. You've got these innovators of technology. You've got these scientists. You've got these professors that are doing things that are unethical. They're playing God. They're crossing thresholds. And they're putting all of humanity at risk, whether it be with AI, whether it be with gene splicing, DNA splicing, synthetic humans, restructuring the order of what God intended for reproduction. They're doing all these things in the name of their own experiments and their own innovations, but yet they keep crying. But there's always those people in those circles that has a conscience. I wonder who gave them that conscience. But anyway, they're all crying out saying, wait a minute, hold on, time out. This might be unethical. This might be immoral. This could lead to problems. This could be the end of us all. This could lead to our extinction. This could lead to the destruction of humanity. Yet, even with all the red flags and the whistleblowers, they still press on and they still move forward. Why? Ladies and gentlemen, look, we could go so many different angles of this, but let me stick to the Bible. The reason why they keep doing it is because prophecy has to be fulfilled. And all of this madness and craziness and this lunacy is all fulfilling Scripture. All of it. It's thrusting us straight ahead because I believe all of this is going to play a role in everything we read in the book of Revelation. The creation of the beast system, the image of the beast, the mark of the beast, all of that is going to play a huge role in this when we get into this. A research operations manager at the Sainsbury Welcome Center in London points out that the success rate of the experiments was very low. Of 259 mice embryos that were transferred to female mice, just 2 survived, and it grew to adulthood and then fathered their own offspring. Quote, this research on generating offspring from same-sex parents is promising. Who was not involved with the experiments, again, this is the researcher, he told New Science this, but it's unthinkable to translate it to humans due to the large number of eggs required, the high number of surrogate women needed, and the low success rate. Again, but they're working on it. They're advancing this. They're moving forward with this and their ambitions. Today, gay couples who want to have children usually rely on surrogate mother or father to bring child into the world. Now, back in 2023, researchers revealed they had been able to create mice from 2 biological fathers for the first time. Because the mice are actually genetically very similar to us, the promising results hinted the feat could be replicable in humans. All right, so folks, again, we're living in crazy times. Paul called it perilous times, distressful, just wild, stressful. Luke 21 says that on the earth, there will be distress of nations with perplexity. There'll be madness, confusion. This stuff is only going to get worse and intensify. It's not going to get better. These crazy experiments, these laboratory experiments, the DNA splicing, the creation of synthetic humans, trying to bypass the order of God's creation is only going to increase as we get closer and closer to the return of the Son of Man. I leave you, as always, with Luke 21:28. Jesus said, when you begin to see all of these things coming to pass, to look up and lift up your heads because your redemption is drawing near. Again, endtimeheadlines.org, endtimeheadlines.com. That's on our main website. Again, pick up our free app. If you haven't done it yet, it's available on Apple and Android devices. You can pick it up today. Hit yes to push notifications, and you're good to go. You're going to have it right there at your fingertips. As always, guys, I want to give you the opportunity If you're blessed by our ministry, you're encouraged, you're equipped, you're informed week after week after week. We want to encourage you to pray about becoming a monthly partner. You can do that two different ways. You can give electronically through the app, through the website, and various ways you can do that. Or you can make out a check or money order to End Time Headlines, P.O. Box 1391, Monroe, Georgia 30655. Now, guys, we're going to sign off for tonight. We'll probably be off tomorrow, which is Saturday, but we'll be back on again, as I said, this weekend, which will be probably Sunday night on the 29th. So be looking for that broadcast. Until we see you guys on the next one, I pray the Lord bless you, may He keep you, and may His countenance shine upon you. We'll see you soon.
Thank you for listening to the End Time Headlines podcast. We pray that you've been blessed and equipped by today's message. For more information about how you can help partner with our ministry, please visit endtimeheadlines.org.